Good morning. It is Sunday. So give me just a second to get this link out here. Today we're going to be talking about words because lots of words. It's actually one of the biggest questions that I get. So I'm just going to drop this link a few places. I got smart today because I actually brought my laptop. So give me just a second. I see folks are starting to join us, which is great. Hola! It's just so early. Oh gosh, and there goes my phone. It's buzzing. It's making noises. We're just gonna make that all go away because, oh my, nobody needs that kind of racket. So we're just gonna get this all out here. So excited that I actually decided to bring my laptop down. Okay. So, and I actually have some data for today. One of the questions that I get a lot is about the words used. And like, these glasses are coming up because OMG. And then my neighbors are cutting a tree down today. So this is awesome. Like, that's how I woke up. I'm like, you're chopping a tree down on Sunday morning, right behind my bedroom window. It's just effing dandy. So it was really early when that happened. But last week we kind of talked about the how. We talked about what, how does the session happen? What does it look like? What's that process? So this week, we're going to talk about words and then some of the trends in words. With the Awakenings Project, this project started in October 2016. Excuse me. And what was interesting is that in the very first cycle, there were 51 participants and there were 65 unique words, as in words that were not duplicated. Through the first cycle of participants, nobody selected the same word, which was really interesting to me. There were no duplicates. When I went into the second cycle, which is commonly referred to as A2, I had 102 participants spread throughout 3 cities. And still had a lot of unique words, with all the different participants. Amazingly, there was only 1 or 2 words that were, not 1 or 2, like 3 or 4 words that were duplicated, which means that we were still seeing this big trend of really unique words. Throughout A2, I think the most common word was resilient, and, which is not a surprise, let's be honest. But what surprised me was that everybody had a different reason for selecting it. So I thought that was pretty fantastic. So, when I started working through the second cycle, amazingly, resilient was popping up for multiple people. What I did see, though, is that, again, the reasonings for selecting it were very unique. Resilient was used 4 times among 102 participants, which I thought was really interesting. And the way that they fell within the cycle, they weren't like, back to back to back to back to back. They showed up at really different times. All 4 women that used the word resilient were all in St. Louis, which I thought was interesting. Keep that in mind because that's going to pop up again later. One of the things that I did notice through this cycle of awakenings too is, there would be entire session days where I would get a new word. For example, I had a day where a woman came in and she had selected the word dauntless. And I really like that word. Dauntless is just a fantastic word. And it just conveys this like really kind of like unfuckwithable spirit where it's like, okay, yeah, go ahead and test me. And I had never had the word before, and this was like participant like 80, 90, somewhere right in there. What was very interesting to me is that dauntless popped up again the same day, which was really, really interesting to me. I was like, never had the word before, and then it popped up twice in the same day. What was also very interesting to me, just like there was a trend to that particular day, because the other words utilized that day were words like warrior, fighter. So there was just a general spirit in the studio that day. Everybody that came in just came in with just kind of this like indomitable spirit, which I absolutely loved. So A2, kind of like showed me, okay, there's words that, women are identifying with, but for different reasons. But, to me, it showed the intersection of life experiences, because sometimes these women had absolutely nothing in common except for this connection to words. I loved it because it opened up some great conversations about intersectionality, which is definitely something that it's a concept that I really, really love to talk about because I feel that so many people need to understand it. So, with A2, I had some really interesting words. I did have words in A2 that had popped up in A1, words like worthy, words like enough, words like free, let go, surrender. Those had definitely popped up before. I had some really awesome words like discernment, which I really loved because like just getting into that space with that participant makes you realize how important discernment truly is. When I moved into A3, that's when things got really interesting. A3 photographed, again, among 3 cities, one of them being the Baltimore, Columbia, Maryland area, the other one being Chicago, and then, of course, right here in St. Louis. I had kind of the same experience with words that I had in A2. I would have entire session days that just had that vibe where it's like, okay, everybody had came in and none of them knowing anybody else, they were selecting words that just carried a certain vibe through the day, whether that be more I'm surrendering, more I'm reclaiming who I am, more of that kind of warrior fighter spirit. What I did think was really interesting during A3, I was in Maryland, and one of the words that had never popped up before was the word faith. And then it popped up 3 times in 2 days. And 2 of those were back to back. And the women didn't know each other. So it was just a fantastic experience. I'm like, oh, my mind blown. So it was just really interesting how that showed. Of course, like during the last cycle, we did do mantra sessions, I am she or we. So those did pop up a lot, obviously. When we did the first session, then other women were then inspired to do it. So there were just a lot of things that were happening with that particular phrase. I don't necessarily include those sessions in my word counts to a point, because sessions are specifically set up for mantra phrases. And it's meant to be like kind of a group experience. So, but when I'm doing, sessions with, just individuals, there are definitely some words that have really stood out to me. One of the words that has really stood out to me, for example, I had the word tenacious pop up in A1 by one of my inspirations, to be honest. But so the word tenacious popped up in A1. Didn't see it at all in A2. And then it popped up again in A3. which was amazing because the woman from A1 that had selected it had experienced some of the same situations that the woman from A3 had, but they're across the country from each other. So like when I see these trends, I'm just like, okay, this is like kind of humanity in action. So it was really, really, really interesting to me. One of the questions that I get a lot is what is the most unique or interesting word that I've had? Personally, I think they're all interesting. I mean, let's be honest, they're all interesting to me simply because there's an amazing journey behind the word and there's a fantastic story. So when I always hear the reasoning behind the selection of that word, every word becomes my favorite. I do know one of the most unique words that I've had was the word juxtaposition. And I had to do some homework on it. And when the woman explained why she had selected this, I was like, wow, my mind was completely blown. Because it was just such a fantastical reasoning. So it's definitely a word that I would recommend everybody go look up, juxtaposition. It's definitely, again, one of the most interesting words that I've had. I had another question I had, what is the longest word? Compassionately is the longest word. I think it's either 15 or 17 letters. And that was an exceptionally long word. I definitely had to kind of focus on how to get it all on there and still make it visible. Another question I've had is, are all the words in English? No. I think we've got 4 languages now. Obviously English, we're seeing English words. I've seen words in Latin. I've seen words in French, and I've seen words in Swahili. So, do be aware that your word is not confined to the English language. It can be any word in any language that you identify with. I'm definitely looking forward as I go into A4, seeing if there are other languages that come up. Because I think it's, definitely, provides to the rest of the world that we're not just confined to the English language. Some of the words that I've seen come through in, French or Swahili are exceptionally meaningful. So, and it allowed me the opportunity to really educate myself on other languages. So, and that's definitely a trend that I see probably continuing as I move into A4, especially since with the kind of versatility of cities that I'm looking at, there's definitely a big opportunity, because I am examining East Coast and West Coast. So I am thinking that I'm probably going to start seeing more words in other languages. Yes, Miki, Swahili. I actually had a couple of words in Swahili, which was amazing. So, definitely as I go through and, at heart, I'm a little bit of a numbers geek. So one of the things that I have actually been working on over the last few days is doing analytics on the word list. Stacy, yes, absolutely. Different languages express ideas in more profound ways. Exactly. A really good example of that is the word imani. In Swahili, imani means faith, but it can be faith in others, faith in self, faith in community. So it really conveyed itself as this just really amazing, profound idea and how that woman connected to it, which I thought was an amazing thing. So now, as I'm moving into this next cycle, I know that I've already talked to 1 or 2 potential participants who had asked if they could use other languages. Yes, absolutely. It's about your connection in whatever language that takes. For me personally, as I, kind of strive towards getting to my word, I'm definitely looking at using a word in Italian, which is representative of some of my heritage. So, I know that it is a potential to see a lot of, and essentially because I've just really put it out there, like any language is okay. Miki says, I also saw some posts in Arabic on Instagram. We spread the world, spread, not just the word, the world. Like we spread it all. But what I've been really doing over the last couple of days is I'm running analytics on the word list. I know how many participants I've had, but getting and really diving down into that full word list and what's been duplicated, what's been used multiple times, how many different languages have been utilized? Is there a trend in words in different cities? Those kind of analytics are things that I'm doing, simply because, again, at heart, I'm a numbers geek, and I the only way for me personally to get the scope of what I'm doing is to run analytics on it, because there are, for me, it's really hard to step back and see the scope and, to understand wow, I photographed almost, 300 people. And sometimes I don't realize that because I get so into the process and the craft and sharing that space and holding that space and listening to the journeys and the stories. I get so into it that sometimes I have to pull back because I'm just it doesn't feel like a lot, because everything is so unique and every woman's journey is so special, and I'm just honored to be a part of that, but then when I pull back and look at it, I'm just that's a lot of people. It's almost 300, at last count, when I had done a word count, it's been probably a little over a month or so since I had done a word count, but I believe the word list was over 400 unique words. 400 unique words in 4 languages. So I'm going to do a more concise count of analytics. And then one of the things that I am doing is the top 10 words. So the words that have popped up multiple times. Those words are actually going to be rolling out to some of the merchandise as well. So that's kind of what I'll be working on over the next day or two. For those that know me, one of the things a lot of people are surprised about is I have a day job. I have a day job because I love my craft and I believe in it, but it doesn't pay my bills. So, so that's why sometimes I'm hit or miss during the week, because, or I'm in my car a lot, because I do work a day job, and then as things grow, that's when I'm able to kind of scale back a little bit during the day and focus more on art. Miki says, I think Swahili has common words with Arabic, as Imani equals my faith in Arabic as well. See, intersection. I love intersection. Intersectionality is critical. It's an amazing concept that I wish everybody knew. But as I kind of pull out, the word list, the word list is going to be public. When I put it out, I'm just trying to figure out the best format to put that in, because this is hella long. And then I will be rolling out the top 10 as well, in addition to the merchandise that goes with that. Again, the merchandise is what keeps us going. Merchandise and donations is what keep us going. The interesting thing is, as I'm kind of talking to potential, other cities, already I'm starting to see kind of a trend of what could be potentially in this cycle. Every cycle has had a trend. I don't name the trend. A lot of people will ask me, is there a theme for this cycle? I wait for it to present itself to me. It's, we're building a story here. This is the story of us. This is our story and our journey. So a lot of times the theme throughout the cycle presents itself to me generally about midway through. With Awakenings 1, and that was my smallest group, is 51. What's funny is I only anticipated 10 to 12. Miki, yes, the word list will probably be available on the website. It's a matter of kind of formatting it. I do have some ideas about, making everything clickable for a definition, and then adding what cycles it's appeared in. So that's something that I'm working through over the next day or two, as I am blissfully off work. So I'll be looking at that. There's also like another section or two coming to the website very soon as well. So that'll be released in a later broadcast. But as I'm going through, the word list and talking to other people, when I do get these questions about the themes, A1 had a definitive theme of healing. Everybody that had sat, it was very much a healing space for women, very much a place for them to kind of step in and establish that connection with themselves so that they can move forward, in a healing space, in a more empowered space. A2 was definitely, a lot of what came out of A2, the theme kind of presented itself in, kind of midway through. I had actually been to Chicago, I think once or twice at that point. And the theme kind of revealed itself during a Chicago session. It all clicked into place where it was more transformation. Women that were coming in were really in this process of personal transformation where they were, leaving everything behind and moving forward from an empowered space and really transforming themselves to be that empowered woman and, maintain that connection with self at all times. So when that theme presented itself, it was kind of mind blowing. I'm just like, quite honestly, I was a solid 60 participants in before the theme really presented itself. For A3 really blew me away. It was exceptionally powerful. It was very inspiring. When women would come in, I definitely was over 50% through before the theme really made itself known to me. And when the theme made itself known, again, it was just I need to take a day off and sit with this. The theme was very much reclamation, and it was like, from day one, all the way through to the very last cycle, there was this reclaiming of the spirit, this reclaiming of self. And it moved into beyond, healing and transformation into, this is me, I'm presenting myself to the world, I'm presenting myself to myself, and this is me at all times. So there was this like reclamation of self, which was very powerful. And it was just like, that right there is really what was just like, okay, yeah, we're doing A4. Yeah, there might be an A5. So I was blown away when it kind of presented itself. I'm getting questions about the theme for A4. It will present itself. It always does. So, because this is our story, these are our journeys, and a lot of times during a cycle, the theme, it will present itself. Generally when it does, like I will immediately be like, oh my gosh, guys, I gotta tell you what I discovered today. It's so exciting. So when that happens, I get super excited and like a little bit ridiculous about it because I want to scream it to the world how like the theme finally put itself out there. So sometimes it happens sooner, sometimes it happens later. With A4 predicted to be definitely one of the bigger cycles. I do know it's the longest cycle already. I've predicted it to be a 6-month cycle. I am starting here in St. Louis on June 30th. And I only have a few spots left. So definitely if you haven't scheduled your spot for June 30th, you might want to do that because there's not much left. July 7th is my next St. Louis session. And I think there's only 2 spots left. So I'll actually start pushing those out as well, just to see if we book it out. As I arrange travel, we do know that we are going to New York City. It is happening. That it's not even in the works logistically. It is happening. Dates are to be determined. I am looking at September. For me personally, my life gets a little ridiculous towards the end of July. And then I have little people, and my little people go back to school in August. So, I still have to like balance my life around that. So, we know New York City is happening. We know that we're going back to the Baltimore Columbia area. We know that is happening. Boston is in logistics. So we are working on logistics for Boston. We know that we're working on Minneapolis. Minneapolis is in logistics. West Coast is a potential. We are looking at Denver. That is in logistics. When I say that a session is in logistics, what that means is we are locating a place to actually photograph in and a contact within that city. Generally, whenever we're going to a city, the actual event page for that particular city will go up about 6 weeks prior. I always do have to make sure that I have enough women interested to actually go. One of the things I try to avoid is I don't want to get on a plane and pay a whole bunch of money for a plane ticket and haul on my equipment and then only have 3 people show up, because that's essentially me throwing my money away. One of the things I will say, is this project sustainable? Not quite yet. Like right now, and I definitely put it out there, like in the interest of transparency. This project is not sustaining itself yet. I generally am paying for this out of my household income. So, if I have to travel, for supplies, things like that, while we do get donations, with the size and the scope that this has grown to and the interest that we have received, we're not yet receiving enough sales and merchandise and donations to actually keep us on the move. So a lot of times I just budget that out of whatever's coming into my household and I just make it happen. For me, in all transparency, I didn't start this project to make money. I started this project because I knew that I didn't want other women to, walk through life feeling the way that I did, and like stepping into that empowered space and that reclamation of self is a really powerful experience, so that's why I do it. If we get donations, if we make merchandise sales, great. That just like goes into the kitty and it kind of helps keep us moving a little bit so that I don't take the hit out of my household budget. It's just kind of, it is what it is. A lot of times, I do personal, like pro photography gigs. That kind of helps too. But I'm so passionate about it that I would make this happen no matter what, so it's definitely not like a thing. Like, oh my gosh, like if I don't do this much in sales, I have to stop the project. No, it's going to happen no matter what because I'm extremely passionate about it. I entered into this project as, a woman first and an artist second, not, a pro photographer. I entered into this space as an artist, which is why when I look at like the word list and I see that, there's a lot of artistry in that. And how that conveys itself. So I don't think a lot of people like hadn't understood that because they'll be like, oh, how much is it? And I'm like, we're community based. This is love donation based, community built, community funded, like we're not going to stop, simply because, because of the financials. There's a passion and an artistry here that's going to continue. And especially being able to see women really step into this amazing empowered space. And what that does is that reaches others and allows them to step into that space as well. Why would we stop doing that? It's just a whole thing. So, there's lots, coming up for the Awakenings Project, especially as we work the logistics out for these other cities. I'm really excited. I'm a little nervous, especially, branching more out on the East Coast and the West Coast. I'm very excited about working logistics out for Denver, which has been a target for a while. We've even got like a city in Iowa that's interested, so at some point I'll probably start putting pins on a map to be like, okay, where else do we need to go? Somebody mentioned Alaska one day. I kind of giggled and I'm like, it's cold up there, but we did go to Chicago in January. So, weather is weather. We'll just make it happen. So if you do know any cities that would be interested, if you're interested in bringing it to your city, your state, your country, definitely reach out to me. I do know that in 2019, I am examining the potential to make one or two international trips. We've gotten interest out of Egypt. We've gotten interest out of Australia. So there is the potential to go international. Those are things that I am examining to determine what I would need to do to make that happen. So, if you're interested, if you know somebody that's interested, if you have a contact in another city, state, country, definitely put them in touch with us so that we can, kind of get it on the map, get it on the list, and see what it's going to take to make it happen. So it is 11:30, and I love that you guys are joining me on Sunday mornings, because quite frankly, I'm not 100% on Sunday, but I'm trying so hard to be better because shit, 11 o'clock feels early for me. So, I know that I've got the Sunday stream set up for, I think, the next 4 or 5 Sundays. Last week was the first one. This is the second one. I didn't anticipate a reaction, but I am getting a reaction. So it's something that I definitely think I'm going to continue to do. Any topics are welcome. If you've got an idea for a topic, drop it to us. Drop your topic on the page. Drop your suggestion into the event for the Sunday stream. Because there are a lot of questions that come out of this project. And I get, emails and inboxes all the time with different questions regarding this project. Those are where the topics are coming from right now. And prior to today, I had probably received about 8 or 9 separate questions just about words, which is why I selected words as today's topic. For next week, it's 6:30 p.m. where you are. I'm so sorry. It's early here. And there's a dude in back of me cutting down a tree. And I'm like, they started at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I was a little shitty about it. I wasn't quite happy. I'm like, it's really early. It woke everybody in the house up. Not happy. But I do have some other questions that have kind of been bouncing into my inbox over the course of the last few days that may potentially show up as a topic in the next couple of weeks. One of the questions that I get a lot, actually, and I've received it 3 or 4 times in the past week alone, is, do I hate men? That's going to show up as a topic. I've got a video out there from a year or so ago about, because I get that. Do you hate men? We'll talk about that. Another question that I have received is about supporters and partnerships. How have I formed partnerships in other cities? That'll be a topic. Definitely, I do think people are interested in that. And there are a lot of great organizations and companies that I've been able to partner with that believe in the message the same way I do. So that will potentially be another topic as well. The Awakenings Project does have some collaborations coming up. For those in the St. Louis area, the What's Your Beauty campaign is on July 14th. I am partnering with the Aries Collection on that. And it's really offering opportunity to women to define what their beauty means to them. It's, tap inspired. And I really, when I got to sit down and talk with the founder of the Aries Collection and 321 Beauty Bar, I was really blown away by where she was going with it. So I'm super excited to do that on July 14th. I do have another collaboration coming up. I don't know if it's been released publicly yet, but it'll be in August. And it's kind of an exclusive thing. But again, great messaging and something I can get behind. So there's just kind of a lot going on. I have some other potential collaborations in the works. So we'll kind of see what happens with those. For those in the St. Louis area, be aware that I am examining space in the Metro East. So we may have an opportunity to cross the bridge and do a little bit more in the Metro East so that nobody has to cross the bridges on the Mississippi, because every single one of them is under construction. So we're going to see what we can do there. Make sure to follow us on our socials. We are on Twitter now. Twitter can be kind of tough, but we are on Twitter. We are at Tap St. Louis on Twitter. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. We are at the Awakenings Project STL on Instagram. And of course, keep following us here on Facebook. One of the best things that people ask what they can help with, share our posts, tag your friends, invite people to like the page. One of the things that we really want to do is we really want to encourage that interaction, especially as we're moving into a new cycle. So give us a follow, give us a like, share our socials. We are definitely getting some awesome messages out there. If anybody has any questions, you can always reach me right through the Facebook page, through Twitter, through Instagram, which everybody has a different platform. Miki says, I'm sure you don't hate men. I don't. I swear to God, I don't. Some people think I do. Women empowerment doesn't mean hating men or making them feel less of themselves. Only insecure men would feel that way. Thanks. That's a good comment. I like it. So again, follow us on our socials, comment on our stuff. There's a very small team behind what we're doing. One of the upcoming topics will be the opportunity to meet the team. And then to really kind of introduce our brand ambassadors as well. So keep an eye out for those pics. I plan to have them edited a little bit sooner, but then life happened. And yeah, so we'll have some brand ambassador picks happening as in the next 24 to 48 hours. You'll also see those start popping up on the website as well. So get us out there, share us with your friends, share us with your family. The most important thing is to just maintain your connection to yourself. I know the world is a kind of troubling place right now. There's things that kind of traumatize us and re-traumatize us every day, especially depending on our experiences. Make sure to take time for you. Self-care is not a trend. It's important. Take some time for yourself. Keep your connection to yourself. And don't forget to stay magical. So I'll talk to you next Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Time.